Today, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be answering some of your questions. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more content like this. I haven't done anything like this in a while. So yeah, let me know if this is something that you'd be interested in seeing. I'm also thinking about starting YouTube memberships and having more exclusive content there. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are if you'd be interested in something like that. And if you have your own questions you'd like me to answer, let me know in the comments below. So this first question is from Death Metal Lad. What are your favorite reactions and what is your short and long-term goals for the channel? Some movies that I've reacted to that have become some of my favorites that I only discovered, through watching them for the channel are An American Werewolf in London, The Thing, Nightmare on Elm Street. I know some of those reactions are a little bit shorter as they came out, a while ago now, but yeah, those movies I absolutely love and just have a whole new appreciation for, which again, I only really discovered through watching horror movies through the channel, which yeah, horror movies, if you've seen any of my videos, horror movies are something that I've typically avoided. So my short and long-term goals for the channel, short term is to just keep growing, keep doing what I'm doing. I definitely have some new ideas for content that I'm hopefully going to be able to put out next year. Long term, obviously to have this channel become incredibly successful. I do think it's successful already because of the community and so many other factors, but yeah, short term, 20K subscribers would be the closest short-term goal, and then long-term, do what I love every day. I think that would be, to me, the highest mark of success is that I get to spend every day working on this. For more long-term goals, I'd love to start adding different styles of content, maybe some trivia style videos, top 10 videos, maybe some educational style videos, stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely have some bigger plans for the channel. It's just working that into the existing content, still having reactions, and just kind of, starting to introduce new things slowly. So hope that answers your question, and thank you so much for submitting it. The next question is from Chris Wake, who says, is there a movie you watched on the channel that you think about often? There's quite a few that get stuck in my brain just because I really love them and want to watch them again. And sometimes it's the scariest ones like Hell House LLC or, Event Horizon. Those movies kind of get stuck in my brain because it just remembers how terrifying it was, but also, going back to some of my favorites, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Thing, An American Werewolf in London, like those, I'm like, oh, I just want to rewatch that again. And especially as we get around to, Halloween and spooky season, those are some that come to mind. And Twilight Zone episodes, I'd say more recently, it gets stuck in my mind because they're just some crazy plots and some very interesting theories that I find myself, thinking about a day later, a week later, whatever it is, because I'm just like, well, what if this means this? And then that means this. So I love those style of videos because again, it just keeps me thinking and it just makes me want to watch them, over and over again. So I hope that answers your question, and thank you so much for submitting it. The next question is from 44 Excalibur, who asks, how do you arrange and schedule your videos, and if there's a certain order you choose for which ones to watch and when to watch them? So I use a platform called Asana, which is how I schedule and just keep everything organized. It's like monday.com if you've ever used anything like that. It's basically just a calendar format, so I have everything scheduled on there. For as far as like scheduling them, I just upload them to YouTube and, pick the date that I want to schedule them. I try and be consistent with the date, like Twilight Zone I put out on Saturdays and Mondays. I try and be consistent with those, so that schedule is kind of set. And especially with a TV show, there's going to be more episodes, you're just going to consistently, go through each season. If there's a certain order to watch them and when you watch them. So like I said, for TV shows, obviously I start with, season 1, episode 1 and go through those. For movies, I try and watch the original if I know about it and if I can. Like when I watched The Fly, I didn't realize there was a 50s version. When I watched the 80s version, so I would have watched the 50s version first. But I also have Patreon polls, which help, choose which movies through people voting on what they want me to see. But as far as like a specific order, obviously if it's a series, I start from the beginning, and it is more depending on like the time of year as well. Like Halloween during spooky season, I do try and watch a lot more horror movies than I usually do throughout the rest of the year. July is Canada Day, so I try and watch some Canadian, horror movies, stuff like that, and just Canadian content. So Same with around, Christmas. I try and stick to the holiday horror movies. So, and I try and keep it, seasonal to the calendar that way. And yes, I promise I have all of your recommendations on the watch list. It's just a very long list, and I promise I will get to them eventually. So I know you've been recommending those for, I think, years now at this point. So thank you for your patience. I promise I will get to them. I hope that answers your question, and thank you for submitting one. The next question is from HFS. It's a bunch of numbers and letters. Sorry, I don't know what that means. That says, you are one of my first reactors I subscribe to, and wondering if you think with the years you've put in, if you'd have more subscribers. Genuine question, not a mean comment. I'm happy with the number of subscribers I have. I know it's easy to get caught up in the vanity metrics. Would it be nice to have 1 million subscribers? Absolutely. I know I'll get there one day, and I've been doing the channel for about 5 years now, and again, I'm happy with the number that I have, and I'm happy with the community. That's what I focus on more, is the engagement and the comments and the discussions. To me, that's what I look forward to, as opposed to just watching the number of subscribers climb. Obviously, I want people to subscribe and I want people to enjoy the content, but I'm not losing sleep over it. And, comparison is the thief of joy. I try not to get caught up in, well, so-and-so's channel has this many and they just started it last year. Like, great, I'm happy for them. That's wonderful. But, again, I'm doing my own thing. I'm on my own journey, and I watch a lot of weird movies. Like, I watch a lot of really niche, weird movies that are separate from the mainstream. And that's what I love doing. I like watching weird stuff and old Twilight Zone episodes and things that people probably aren't watching. And I realize that's probably going to bring in a smaller audience, but I'm okay with that. I like what I do. I like what I'm watching, and I like the community and the engagement that comes from that. So, like I said, I really hope the channel gets to, 100,000, 1 million one day. Absolutely. Those are definitely goals that I have. But I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of where we are. And, I know it's going to keep growing and growing, and it is growing every day. And I'm just trying to be, patient with it. And I try and tweak things and make changes throughout the years. And I definitely have a lot of new ideas for content to come out. But yeah, again, it's not something I'm losing sleep over. I'm really proud of the channel. I'm proud of myself for the work that I've put in to get it to where it is. So I hope that answers your question, and yeah, thank you for submitting one. The next question has 2 parts from Rosawa38633. The first question is, do you rewatch your reactions weeks, months, years later? Not so much. I don't know. Sometimes I'll go back and watch like one of my first, older videos, or sometimes if I'm doing a series like with Friday the 13th, the last time I had watched a Friday the 13th movie was a couple years ago. So I went back and rewatched my reaction to the 3rd video, just because it had been a while and I wanted to make sure that I was caught up with everything that had happened. For those I do, again, like if it's a series and it's been a while since I've seen, the last part of the series. But sometimes if I want to show like friends and family, like, oh, you should watch this video, and I know they really love this movie or something like that, or I'll meet someone new and they're like, oh, I love X, Y, and Z movie. I'll be like, great, here, like if you want to watch this, like here's my reaction to it. I really love this movie as well. But yeah, like other than that, I don't. Maybe I should. I don't know. I usually don't, like I said, other than the examples I listed, but I appreciate that you do that. Yeah, that really means a lot. So thank you so much for watching. The next question is, do you ever consider a second subsequent viewing reaction instead of first time watching of any film or TV episode? This is in the vein of, I first reacted like this, but after thinking it over time, I now think differently or have the same reaction. Or I've seen more of this actor, writer, filmmaker, and I have reconsidered their worth. I've definitely thought about doing like a rewatch style videos, but more to nostalgic movies and TV shows that I watched growing up that I haven't seen in like 10, 15 years, to watch them and see if they still hold up. Or to see if my memory of it is different, or to see, oh, this was actually really bad, but in my, childhood brain, I thought it was the best thing ever. So I've kind of been playing around with some of those ideas, but it would be interesting to go back and rewatch. I would almost style it more as like a trivia based video. I would still want to provide some kind of like value for the video, and, just rewatching it and saying my opinion changed. I could, I just don't know that I could do that for 10 minutes or, you know, to make it worth a YouTube video, maybe for a social media post or something. But I would, yeah, like I said, if I was to go back and rewatch, you know, The Thing, I would want to be like, okay, here's this trivia I've learned since I've watched it, or so-and-so in the comments told me this after the first time I watched it. And, you know, I definitely do have a new appreciation for John Carpenter, absolutely, and Vincent Price, you know, these big names that I wasn't really super familiar with. So yeah, I would have that perspective, but yeah, I'd want to make sure that I'm providing value for the video, and I could maybe do it as like a compilation video or something like that with different movies that I now have different perspectives on, just to get it, you know, to make it a longer form video for YouTube. But yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. I just need to work out some of the logistics of how it would fit. So I hope that answers your question, and thank you so much for submitting it. The next question is from Bobby G716, who asks, have you seen the TV series 24? I have not. I know what it's about with Kiefer Sutherland, and each episode is an hour, I believe. And then obviously the show being 24 takes place over 24 hours. I know it was on TV a while ago. I haven't seen it though, but I can add it to the watch list. And thank you so much for submitting your question. The next question is from Kevin Riviera, who asks, if you were ever offered a job as a cinematographer on a film project, would you take it? And if why not? I probably wouldn't, because a cinematographer is a very intense, highly technical, skilled job. I like filming, I like cameras, I like, you know, experimenting with different film styles and stuff like that, but a cinematographer is a very high level, and I don't think that that is my strongest skill set. Like I said, I like filming, I like, you know, doing all of those things, but I don't know that I have the technical brain space. But it is a very high level job. You are basically like the director and the cinematographer, or the top of the food chain on the call sheet. You are basically running the show. It's a very technical and intense job. I do think it can be a really creative and fun job as well. It's just, I would rather take a job as a director or something like that as opposed to a cinematographer. You know, I'm not up till 2 a.m. researching new cameras. I don't have that drive to learn about every new cool piece of technology. Like, I appreciate it and I think it's really fascinating, but I definitely have a complete appreciation and respect for people in that role, because yeah, you really have to be the top of your game to be at that level. So yeah, I would probably pass if someone offered, but thank you so much for submitting your question. The next is from Natura Summer 3021. That is just a list of suggestions. So thank you for suggesting those. I will add them to the watch list. A few of them I know have been suggested before, so I will definitely check those out. But yeah, thank you for commenting. The next question is from Brewster99B2, who asks if I did a live stream when I hit 10K, and says that was fun. Thank you. I appreciate that. I did a live stream at 5K, I believe. And I'd love to do another one when I get to 20K. I just need to practice more of my live streaming. It's not something that I do very often, and I feel like the 5K live stream, it was fun. It was great to chat with everybody, but the questions I feel like I wasn't able to answer because they were just coming in so quickly, and I want to make sure that I can answer them all. So that's kind of why I shifted to this a little bit more, because you've submitted your question. I can make sure that I'm directly responding to it and that you get your questions answered. With the live stream, I would go to answer one question and like 10 more would be submitted, which I know is a good problem to have. I definitely appreciate that, you know, much engagement and that many people being excited to have questions, but I just really wanted to make sure that I could respond to all of them. So yeah, I have to play around a little bit and get more familiar with the live streaming. So for now, I see, yeah, your second part of the question, a question sent to me, is probably how I would do it for the next little while until I get to 20K. And like I said, play around a little bit and make sure that I can answer as many questions as possible. So thank you so much for submitting your question, and I hope that answers it. And the last question is from Kevin Riviera, who says, this might be a hard question to answer, but of all the reactions you have done, is there any comment or comments that stick out in your mind? There's definitely a mix of good and bad comments that stick out in my mind. The good ones are obviously very much appreciated. The good ones that stick out in my mind are ones that somehow seem to understand what I'm trying to do, even though we haven't met. And that just means the world to me, that I am able to actually convey what I'm trying to convey, through a screen, through a camera, and people, a different country, different parts of the world somehow are able to understand. And it means so much to me, and that community means so much to me. And comments like, I was having a bad day and I watched your video and now, I feel better, or, this gave me 10 minutes to not think about anything and just watch your video, and stuff like that sticks with me because it motivates me even more and makes me want to keep going and putting out more content, and remember that somebody out there might be waiting for this video. Or even me, like if I'm watching my favorite TV show, how excited I get when it finally comes on. And comments from people who I recognize the username, like yours, Kevin, and who have been subscribed and following and commenting on consistently for years and years. And to me that means so much, and to me that just means like this is actually progress, and I'm able to actually build this little community, which was my goal to the start, to have an excuse to talk about movies. That's what I wanted to do. So yeah, those comments stick out. There's definitely a few not so great comments that I try not to let take up as much brain space, but I try and focus on the positive comments and the people who genuinely want to see the videos that I put out and genuinely love movies and TV shows as much as I do, and the weird movies and the sci-fi and everything that I put out, and people who just want to talk about them and are as passionate about movies and TV shows as I am. Those are definitely ones that stick out in my mind, and I try and remember those if I'm feeling, a little tired or whatever. It's just like, right, remember that this is for other people, and people are counting on this, and people want to see this. So yeah, those comments definitely, help keep me going. So thank you so much for submitting your question, and I hope that answers it. So those were all the questions that were submitted. If you have your own question, or like I said, I might get into YouTube memberships if you'd want to see questions and maybe some more behind the scenes content there, let me know in the comments, or if you have your own question. So thank you to everybody that submitted a question. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight and answered some of the questions you had. And like I said, let me know if you want to see more content like this. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, and check back often for more awesome content.